Good Tuesday to you, and welcome to Ag AM in Kansas. Stay tuned for some great features today.
Brian Holman is at Premier Farm and Home visiting with Chad about soil samples. Learn why this information is so important to the health of your lawn and garden and how to properly take a sample. Then Brian talks with Ron, who gives us a legislative update. Next, in our Healthy Yard segment, learn about the wide variety of materials to build a raised garden. Finally, BJ Scott shares how commercial cattlemen employ DNA technology to rebuild their herds. Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers. Ag AM in Kansas is brought to you in part by SureCrop, liquid crop nutrition delivered right to your farm.
Thanks for staying with us this morning. We're out at Premier Farm and Home, and we're joined by Chad. It's good to see you, Chad.
How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing well.
Good.
It's short weather. We're
finally a little shorts weather.
No.
I think the snow's done finally.
Yeah, well, we hope so, anyways. Hey, every time I'm kind of out visiting with my neighbors, and we're kind of walking around each other's yards and talking about things, we always talk about, well, I wish I would have taken a soil sample, or I did take a soil sample. Let's talk about soil samples and how important they are.
Okay, well, you notice I have a prop with us today. We do have a soil probe. This is a pretty standard one that a lot of people used to take soil tests. And the reason why soil tests are important is most Kansas soils usually have adequate levels of phosphorus and potassium. That's the main two things that the soil test, as far as nutrients goes, will tell you. Unless they've been under continuous agriculture or something like that, we may be out of whack. Not to mention, a lot of times in our home yards, you know, a guy will come in and a contractor will construct things and move soil around and do all kinds of stuff, and who knows what you got mixed in at certain levels. So that's why having that information can give you a place to start, so that we know we're not having just one little thing throw us completely off.
And so what should we be kind of thinking about when we're doing a soil sample? Should we do it from multiple locations? Should we do it from one location? Like, I have a couple of bare spots in my yard, and I overseeded in the fall. Should I be sampling in those bare spots to see if something's wrong, or should I tell us how we should be doing it?
First off, most soil tests are pretty inexpensive. They're usually $10 or less to send it into Kansas State or something like that to get the soil sampled. So a lot of times I will do multiple locations in one site, and oftentimes I will separate a good area and a bad area. So you may say, hey, this is a good part of my lawn, what makes it so great, and have that tested, and do it from multiple locations, 3 to 5. And when that sample is taken, you need to ensure that you're removing that top organic matter part of the soil. So you don't want any thatch in it, Brian, any leaves or grass or anything like that will throw off. So kind of separate
the grass a little bit.
Yeah, that'll throw off your test if you put any chunks of grass in there. So we just want the soil for this purpose, and we don't have to go any deeper than 6 inches. Top 4 would be great or ideal. So we're only going 4 inches down, multiple locations, and separate your test into 2 areas, good and bad.
Okay, yeah. Wet, dry, does it really matter?
We'd prefer to have it a little drier just because it's easier to, let's just put it this way, we do not want a saturated, muddy soil. It really, in the long grand scheme of things, it doesn't matter. However, when you go to mix it in your bag, you're just going to end up with one big dough ball of mud versus, some drier granular stuff. Plus, when you go to ship it, that dry weight is less expensive than the wet weight.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the tool, we're going to finish out this segment. We're going to talk about how to do the soil sample. So the tool just simply goes straight into the ground.
Straight into the ground.
Pull it straight out.
Okay.
Yep. And then I'm assuming take off the grass that's on the top.
Correct. We'll go over that, and then how to mix it, and then we'll also kind of go over when you get your results back, what does that mean for you?
Okay, perfect. Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to finish up with Chad out here at Premier Farm and Home.
Great.
You're watching Ag AM in Kansas, and we'll see you in just a minute.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
ValleyVet.com, ValleyVet.com, Valley Vet Supply.
And now here's another gardening tip with Dave Jackson.
Did you know that dandelions can be killed in your yard with a product made by Fertilome called Weed Out, and you don't have to fertilize your lawn? So if you're worried about your lawn getting too high and too tall too quick with too much fertilizer, come in and ask for some Fertilome Weed Out without lawn fertilizer to kill your dandelion.
Our annual Mix or Match flat sale is underway. Plant 48 homegrown annuals for just $18.99. Save 35%.
This hog is Hanover hoof for meal made from U.S. soybeans. Now, one hog isn't that impressive, but suppose we add another, and another, and another. Before long, you've got billions of hungry customers around the world all clamoring for the same thing. Our soybeans. Learn more about the billion-dollar appetite of animal agriculture at BeyondTheElevator.com. Brought to you by America's soybean farmers and their checkoff.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information.
Purple Wave is a proud supporter of the Kansas FFA through the Bid for Blue program. Purple Wave donates a portion of the proceeds earned on certain ag assets to the Kansas FFA. Winning bidders can designate a Kansas chapter to receive the donation. To date, Purple Wave is proud to have donated over $10,000. Visit purplewave.com to learn more and to place bids on Bid for Blue assets. Purple Wave Auction. Straight, simple, sold.
Thanks for staying with us, Chad. Thank you for staying with us.
No problem.
Before we left, we were going to talk about taking a soil sample. We
Correct.
talked about why we should do it. Now let's talk quickly about how we're going to take it.
Okay, so what you're going to do is go mark out a few locations in your yard. And when you go to scout it, usually areas of the same altitude have the same soil. I mean, there's always invariables when you're mixed, but if you think of it like out on a big ag field that's sloping down in the terraces, generally the soil at the same height within that terrace is the same soil. If you get up to the top, you have a different one. If you go all the way to the valley, you have a different soil. So just be aware that you'll have different soil sites, and you would want to kind of go down your yard, not just across the same height. That way you don't have 5 of the same samples. You're truly working with an average there at that point. So we've got our tool. We've either got a soil probe like this one that you can pick up or borrow from us, or you can use just a standard shovel, Brian. There's nothing wrong with taking a little shovel other than you're gonna
Have a
a
little
divot, which you can get some grass seeds.
Right,
So that's
exactly.
great. But seriously, that's probably the easiest way to do it. So we go figure out what we're gonna do, pull it from multiple locations, then we put it in just a large plastic bag, mix it together, take it down to your local extension office, and they'll have these little soil test bags, and then we'll pull a small sample from that large that you've well mixed, and then we'll send it off and get the results.
Perfect. Once we get the results back, what should we be thinking about?
A standard soil test will give you the amount of phosphorus that's in the soil, high or low, the amount of potassium that's in the soil, high or low, and then we'll give you a pH of the soil. So if we're for our ideal growing grass pH, we're looking for about 6.8 to 7.2, somewhere around there, right around neutral, nothing too out of whack. And just remember on the pH scale that it is powers of 10 as you go. So the difference between a 7 and an 8, if you have that as a unit and you go between 7 and 10, or 7 and 9, there's 100 times difference, and then the next unit's 1,000 times different, and then 10,000 times.
Okay.
So it's very different once it gets away from neutral. So keep that in mind when they give you these crazy recommendations of 500 pounds of lime per 1,000 square feet. That's why.
Right.
If it's really bad, you'll have to do some work. The phosphorus and potassium levels can be supplemented. Phosphorus always needs to be incorporated into the soil in order for it to do any good. So you can't just lay phosphorus on top. It needs to be applied with a core aeration or something to that effect. If it's in a garden situation, you can till it. Mm-hmm. So the phosphorus needs to be incorporated. You'll notice we're missing a big one there. We're not talking about nitrogen. Nitrogen is in a lot of different forms. It's soluble. It moves in and out of this. It's difficult to test. They do have a fancy nitrogen profile analysis. I would probably skip that because it's not going to tell you useful information. You're almost always going to have to supplement nitrogen. That's usually the limiting reactant.
And all of these, I'm assuming all of these can be applied by spreader, spray. What's our best application if we get it back?
Yeah, the best application if we show we're in deficit and your soil test will tell you, hey, you're in deficit of phosphorus, apply at the rate of, and they'll give you a few examples of fertilizer, and those on the test are just examples. You can use whatever fertilizer you have at the right ratios to get the amount you need. Don't feel like you have to use exactly what they have, but just understand what you need to do to get it back in order. And then the last thing, there is one add-on you can do to the and it's called a soil texture analysis. And for lack of a better term, that gives you the gas tank of your soil. The more sand you have, the less surface area to stick nutrients to and water. The more clay it is, the more water, the more nutrients it can hold, but the less air. So have to kind of play that out.
Perfect. HeyCal.com, and you have any questions for Chad, that's where you can find him. Thanks for your time,
Brian.
buddy.
Yep.
In a feedlot situation, we use Multimin on an arrival basis. Maybe if they came in a little lighter weight, 550, 600 pounds. We use Multimin on high-stress cattle, high-risk cattle. We're looking for a better response to our vaccine. Or some of the cattle that we're looking for when we use Multimin, they come in, maybe they look a little mineral deficient. They come from parts of the country that are lower in certain mineral. So we use it on those cattle, tends to make a big difference.
Get ready for the Kicker Country Stampede presented by Verizon Wireless, starring Jason Aldean, Trace Atkins. 4 days of camping and country music at Country Stampede, Little Big Town. The Pistolantes featuring Ashley Monroe, Miranda Lambert, and Angelina Presley. Country Stampede. Take advantage of our current pricing. Advanced pricing for a 4-day ticket is $135. Prices go up June 26. More info at countrystampede.com.
This segment is brought to you by the Kansas Association of Wheat Growers and the Kansas Wheat Commission. Together, we are Kansas Wheat.
Ron, thanks for joining us this morning.
It's my pleasure.
Things winding down as the session starts to come to an end for this year. A few things that we probably need to talk about is the Kansas Restraint of Trade Act.
Well, yeah, this is a bill that was signed into law by the governor. It's actually the law of the land now, that basically answers a Supreme Court decision made last year that basically sets back 100 years worth of case law with regard to class action lawsuits in the state of Kansas. If this bill had not been passed and signed into law, it would essentially make Kansas a bullseye for class action lawsuits across the country. Companies would be coming to shop Kansas to file these lawsuits, and it could be very costly to agribusiness and all businesses in general. So with the passage of this law, it makes it key to make it easier to do business in Kansas.
Was this something that your office really kind of had a key role in playing and trying to get it pushed through?
We were key players in the passage of this legislation with a coalition of a number of other businesses as well.
Okay. Sorghum funding. I know that it was a really big deal that we were potentially going to get several $1 million of sorghum funding. I mean, it's a key issue here in the state. It didn't make it.
No, it was put in the governor's budget, $2 million for sorghum research to be matched by $2 million from Kansas State University and also $2 million from the National Sorghum Checkoff Fund. The legislature did not feel had precedence over other budget issues, so it was not included in the final budget. It may come up again next year. Sorghum funding is key for helping address the drought and other issues with regard to ethanol production, and we're hoping that in the future there will be adequate funds to help develop sorghum research in Kansas.
Well, I know this is, again, probably something out of your office here that was probably extremely important to the people you represent.
Yes, it's very important to agribusiness and to the ethanol industry.
Right. The immigration. I mean, we hear it on the national level and, of course, here in the state of Kansas. Where are we at with immigration?
Well, several bills the past few years have been introduced in the State House to no avail, wanting to move forward with state-led immigration reform. Some of these bills are extremely costly to business, that if you quote-unquote knowingly hire an undocumented worker and the definition of knowingly is very questionable. You could lose your business license, which means you're out of work, all your employees are out of work. Our trade association, the Kansas Grain and Feed Association, the Kansas Agribusiness Retailer Association, strongly feel that this is a federal issue and should remain that. And we are adamantly opposed to state-led immigration reform. We need to have one good national policy, not 50 hodgepodge policies across the states. State-led agribusiness immigration legislation in other states like Alabama, Georgia, and Arizona have been costly, in the billions of dollars costly to the agribusiness economies in those states.
Is there a fine line between what agriculture needs and what, I guess, kind of general laborers need? I mean, is there a happy medium between the two?
Well, for instance, in western Kansas, southwestern Kansas, there is a need for employees, period. And if we can find a policy that allows legal workers to come in and possibly and be here legally, and we know who they are and what they're doing, and fulfill those employment needs, that's where the federal government needs to come in. But you're right, there is employment problem, shortages across the board, whether it be at construction, hotels, restaurants, in addition to agribusiness.
And the last one is the ag nuisance law.
Yeah, that was a bill that was approved and signed into law this last legislative session that we helped move through the system. And it basically puts in the ag nuisance law protections against lawsuits for those that handle store commodities. So it really is puts protections into law for folks that are at grain elevators or agribusiness in general.
Roy Fry Western Lifestyles brings the cowboy or cowgirl out in all of us. With a huge selection of must-have items, it doesn't matter if you're shopping for your horse, picking up some Western accessories to add that rustic charm to your home, or simply treating yourself. The knowledge and expertise to dress you your Western best is right here at Roy Fry Western Lifestyles, Highway 24 and Kansas Avenue in Topeka.
American innovation is being driven in places you might not expect by people like Brent Hayek, an Oklahoma family farmer, who recently set a world land speed record in a Ford Super Duty pickup truck powered by renewable B20 biodiesel. Advanced performance is here, now, putting America on the fast track to more jobs and energy independence. Biodiesel, America's advanced biofuel.
Golf Week calls it the best course you can play in Kansas. But once you play, you'll want to stay. Go for it. Firekeeper Golf Course at Prairie Band Casino and Resort is just north of Topeka off Highway 75. Our stay and play package is worth the trip. Luxury hotel room, green fees, and golf cart for two, starting at just $169.
Prairie Band Casino and Resort. Go for it.
This segment is brought to you by Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, just a short drive down the Yellow Brick Road.
When you're going to make the investment of building a raised bed for your home garden, you want to consider the different types of materials you can use to construct that raised bed. The cheapest material you could use for a raised bed would be untreated lumber. The downside of that untreated lumber is that it's usually going to start decaying and may need to be replaced in about 3 to 5 years. The next material you could consider would be treated lumber or treated landscape timbers, and both of those are relatively inexpensive as well. The treated lumber is going to last longer than your untreated lumber, probably anywhere from 5 to 15 years depending on the conditions in your garden. From there, if you're looking for a little more decorative or an upscale material, red cedar would be a good option for a raised bed. Landscape pavers or concrete blocks are very functional in raised bed edging materials. They obviously are very durable if they're constructed well, but they have a little higher initial expense. A newer material that we've been using in raised beds is plastic lumber, or it's usually found as decking materials. And that plastic lumber, again, is very durable, but it's also quite expensive, especially if you're using a thicker, higher quality plastic lumber. As far as dimensions go, we generally recommend a bed that's not more than 4 to 5 feet maximum in width, because you want to be able to reach to the middle of the bed without having to walk in the bed. Then you have to consider length, and the length is really flexible according to the space you have in your yard. If you're not walking in your bed, that means you have to walk around it if you need to get to the other side. So it may be easier to make several shorter beds with walkways in between rather than making one really long bed.
For more information, visit your local extension office or visit our website at kansasgreenyards.org.
Tar Waters has what you need for all seasons for around the farm and home. Working, hunting, growing, feeding, snow removal, even fun for the kids. And a service department with experienced techs to help keep your equipment in top running condition. Tar Waters has a huge selection and the best prices. Tar Water Farm and Home, family owned and operated since 1978. They have what you need.
The Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine is a leader in food animal research and education. Our researchers are constantly expanding the knowledge of animal health and food safety. Through the Veterinary Health Center and the Kansas State Veterinary Diagnostic Lab, we provide practical services for animal producers. Home of the Beef Cattle Institute, the college is committed to animal welfare training and research. The Kansas State University College of Veterinary Medicine, knowledge and service for the future of animal production.
Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information. This segment is brought to you by Santa Fe Trail Meats in Overbrook. Stop by or visit us at sftmeats.com.
Reducing herd size has been one solution for cattlemen dealing with drought. That meant tough decisions, especially when cows all seem like keepers. But some producers are turning to commercial DNA to add more information to that culling process.
Let's say I've got 100 heifers, but I only want to keep 50 of them. We gene max those heifers and we keep the top 50%, or maybe it's the top 25%. But again, knowledge is power, and to have for $17 a head to be able to know what are your top heifers on the basis of marbling and performance and the composite score, that's powerful information, and that's information that'll help our producers make strategic decisions that'll help them make more money in the future.
As a seed stock producer, Gardner says it's imperative to educate customers about that test because it's one tool they can use during drought as an opportunity to make herd improvements.
My dad always said good genetics don't cost, they pay, and I very much believe that, and really in all seriousness, now is the time to bear down more than ever before on the best genetics.
Marketed by Certified Angus Beef and Angus Genetics Inc., the GeneMax test also offers a kind of paternity test or sire matching if the bull battery has been Zoetis HD 50K tested.
We can keep heifers out of those bulls that are particularly strong in the maternal traits, such as maternal calving ease, milk production, heifer pregnancy, as well as growth and carcass merit, so that we can just make sure that the very best replacements possible out of our pool are going to rebuild our herd.
Gardner says making DNA technology available to commercial cattlemen is a boon to the industry.
This is one more tool that we can put in our toolbox. We can have information to make decisions with, and that's what the association does so well, is arming us with those tools that help us make good decisions.
I'm BJ Scott.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers.
We'll have lots more for you tomorrow here on Ag AM in Kansas. We're here every weekday, same time, same station. Or look for us on the web at agaminkansas.com. Eric Atkinson here from K-State Research and Extension.